Americans now believe they need $1.46 million to retire comfortably, not 600,000, not 800,000, 1.46 million. And the uncomfortable part is not just that the number is large. The uncomfortable part is that the number keeps moving. According to Northwestern Mutual's 2026 Planning and Progress study, the amount Americans think they need for a comfortable retirement jumped from $1.26 million last year to $1.46 million this year. That is a $200,000 increase in 1 year. For many households, that does not feel like a retirement goal. It feels like a finish line running away from them. And that is the real story. This is educational content. It is not financial, legal, tax, or investment advice. The first thing to understand is that $1.46 million is not your personal retirement number. It is a survey number. It is a signal. It tells us how people feel about the cost of retirement, the pressure of inflation, and the fear of running out of money later in life. But your actual number depends on your age, your income, your health, your housing situation, your debt, your family obligations, your location, your retirement lifestyle, and how long your money may need to last. So the mistake is not ignoring the $1.46 million headline. The mistake is treating it like a magic number. A household that owns a paid-off home in a lower-cost area may need a very different plan than a household renting in an expensive city. Someone retiring at 62 has a different problem than someone retiring at 70. Someone with a pension has a different problem than someone relying mostly on personal savings and Social Security. The headline gets attention, but the plan has to be personal. The real issue is the gap. What people think they need is rising. What many people have saved is not rising nearly fast enough. Northwestern Mutual found that 46% of Americans surveyed do not expect to be financially prepared for retirement, almost half. And 48% said it is somewhat or very likely they could outlive their savings. That is not just a math problem. That is a confidence problem. People are not only asking, how much do I need? They are asking, what happens if I am wrong? What happens if inflation stays high? What happens if healthcare costs rise? What happens if my job changes? What happens if the market pulls back right when I need the money? What happens if I live longer than expected? That fear is why the retirement number feels heavier now. Because the number is not floating by itself. It is sitting on top of everyday financial pressure. Inflation does not just make groceries more expensive. It changes the way people think about the future. If your current life costs more than it did a few years ago, it becomes harder to believe your future life will be cheaper. Housing costs more. Insurance costs more. Healthcare feels uncertain. Property taxes can rise. Cars cost more. Debt payments compete for cash flow. Even people who are saving may feel like they are falling behind because the target keeps adjusting upward. That is why the retirement conversation has changed. It is no longer just about choosing investments. It is about building a system strong enough to survive rising costs. Because if inflation eats today's paycheck, it also threatens tomorrow's retirement. Here is where most people get stuck. They look at a number like $1.46 million and freeze. It feels too big. So they either panic or they avoid the subject completely. But retirement planning is not built by staring at one giant number. It is built by creating a repeatable system. First, know your current gap. Not the national gap. Your gap. What do you have saved now? What are you contributing each month? What employer match are you capturing? What debt is slowing you down? What expenses could be reduced without wrecking your life? What would retirement actually cost if you retired in the place you expect to live? Second, protect the habit. The habit matters because retirement is not funded by motivation. It is funded by repetition. Automatic contributions, annual increases, employer match capture, debt reduction, emergency reserves, regular checkups. These are boring tools. But boring tools are how big gaps start closing. One of the most important questions is simple. Are you leaving employer match money behind? If your employer offers a retirement match, that match is part of your compensation. Not a bonus. Not a favor. Compensation. For many workers, capturing the full match is one of the clearest first checkpoints. That does not mean everyone can afford to max out retirement accounts immediately. Life is real, debt is real, rent is real, childcare is real, medical bills are real. But if the employer match is available and you are not capturing it, The retirement gap can get wider before the investing conversation even starts. That is why the system begins with the obvious money first, then the savings rate, then the debt drag, then the emergency buffer, then the long-term target. Not because the order is perfect for everyone, but because people need a framework they can actually use. The $1.46 million number is useful because it forces a question. What is your number? Not the number that sounds impressive, the number that matches your real life. Start with spending. How much does your household need each month now? Which expenses might go down in retirement? Which expenses might go up? Healthcare may go up. Travel may go up. Housing may go down if the mortgage is paid off. Taxes may change. Family support may continue. Debt may still be there if it is not handled early. Then ask how much of that spending might be covered by reliable income sources. Social Security. Pensions, if you have one. Annuity income, if it is part of your plan. Rental income, if it is real and sustainable. Then the savings portfolio has to cover the gap. That is the point. The retirement number is not one giant trophy. It is a tool for covering future cash flow. When people hear $1.46 million, the easy reaction is panic. But panic usually creates bad decisions. Some people take too much risk because they feel behind. Some people take no risk because they feel overwhelmed. Some people delay the conversation because the number feels impossible. None of those is a plan. A better question is this: what is the next measurable improvement? Can you increase contributions by 1%? Can you capture the full match? Can you remove one debt payment? Can you build a small emergency buffer so retirement money is not constantly interrupted? Can you review your target once per year instead of avoiding it for 5 years? Small changes do not feel dramatic, but retirement math is not built on drama. It is built on consistency. The $1.46 million retirement headline is scary, but the scariest part is not the number. The scariest part is not knowing your own gap. Because if you do not know the gap, you cannot build the system. And if you do not build the system, inflation, debt, lifestyle creep, and time can quietly make the gap wider. So do not treat $1.46 million like a commandment. Treat it like a warning light. Check your number. Check your savings rate. Check your match. Check your debt drag. Check whether your retirement plan still matches the life you are actually living. The finish line may be moving, but a moving finish line is not a reason to quit. It is a reason to measure better. This is Black Bear Finance. Real money. Clear thinking. No hype. Subscribe for more financial breakdowns built to help you understand the numbers before they become a crisis.